Siege of Vienna, 1529. The Spanish were there to help defend Österreich, the gate of the Balkans into the west, which you never hear because of anti-Spanish prejudice, always suppressing Spanish glory. However, the Spanish emperor was too stretched by his war with France to spare more than a few Spanish infantry to the cause, and by few, almost 1,000. Up to 800 Spanish arquebusiers, of which a minority survived. Apparently they were in the thick of the fight. In the Battle of Lepanto, near Greece, the Spanish Empire and the Venetian Republic were the main powers of the coalition, the so-called Holy League, I think, as the League was largely financed by Felipe II of España, and Venice was the main contributor of ships. There's a long list of Italian states here, but they're mostly small. The Spanish Empire is the bulk of this league. Now then, while Spain defended the British and others, those were getting busy pirating from Spain out of greed. Obstacles to Europe's salvation, Britain and France. Brits, the French, the Dutch, and others claimed to follow Jesus. So why didn't they practice his teaching to not be evil ingrates? And Jesus answering said, "Were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? They're not found that return to give glory to God, save this stranger." Jacques Pierre said, "I hate ingratitude more in a man than lying, vainness, babbling, drunkenness, or any taint of vice whose strong corruption inhabits our frail blood." The Englishman George Washington said, apparently, "Nothing is a greater stranger to my breast, or a sin that my soul more abhors, than that black and detestable one, ingratitude." France allied with Turks out of fear of Spanish power. Traitors to Europe for their own selfish interests. France had like twice the population, yet feared Spain, although of course the Spanish Empire entirely had a greater population. Sevilla at the end of the 1500s had about 100,000 people. Paris at the beginning of the 1500s had more than double that. They say Spain could conquer only primitive Stone Age people. They turn a blind eye or are ignorant of Portugal, southern Italy, and the Brunei Empire. Although in the case of Portugal, the Moors helped a lot. They decapitated Portugal, which made it easy for Spain to take it over. The British had trouble with the Zulus despite superior technology to Spaniards, so they shouldn't talk. Spain is why Brunei lost its empire. Brits and others contributed later. The Spanish arrive in the Philippines, and in the Castilian War, Spain succeeded in invading the capital of Brunei at that time, Cotabato, in 1578 with the help of 2 disgruntled Brunei noblemen. Spain suffered heavy losses due to disease, and because they were outnumbered and outgunned, the Bruneians won, and the Spaniards were driven out with their Mexican and Filipino allies. But the Spanish burned the mosque of the capital of the Brunei Empire, and that is glorious. In the aftermath, Spain kept Brunei from regaining a foothold in Luzon. The Sultanate of Brunei would cease to be an empire at sea. Spain crushed it. And they eventually gave their Bornean territory to James Brooke, a British guy, as you can tell from his name. And now they are one of the smallest nations in the world, Brunei. The boss when you fight him, the boss when you unlock him as a playable character. I'm glad Brunei is against stealing rainbows. That makes it one of the best countries in the world. And they let me grow my beard big. before decapitating me for questioning Muhammad. In Southeast Asia, there was gunpowder. Arab traders introduced gunpowder weapons to the people of Java and other areas. The Majapahit of what is now Indonesia acquired gunpowder from the Mongol invasion that failed. Mongols spread gunpowder, which they got from the Chinese. Thanks to the Mongols, the Spanish Empire became a thing. Thanks to the Mongols, we are in this situation right now. This was a cannon that was used by Indonesians, Filipinos, Bruneians, and other people like in Malaysia. Spaniards beat advanced civilizations, not just loincloth. This proves it. And the Philippines treasure their cannon. The Lantaka was used, that cannon of theirs was used by Moro soldiers in the rebellion against U.S. troops in the Philippines. And they were also used by the Filipinos against the Spanish when they acquired independence with the help of the United States. During the War of Independence against Spain, when Spain had to fight the U.S. as well, the hopes for independence were dashed when the United States formally annexed Filipinas as part of its peace treaty with Spain. Spain sold the entire Philippine archipelago to the U.S. for $20 million. So that's pretty funny because the Filipinos trusted in Spain, in the U.S., but the U.S. betrayed them. According to History.com, which focuses on imaginary aliens, atheist fiction, but sometimes covers real history, U.S. forces on the island of Samar retaliated against the massacre of a U.S. garrison by killing all men on the island above the age of 10. Many women and young children were also butchered. The USA Anglo-Germans went killing all the men on the island. Yet Mercan Anglo-Germans accused Spain of genocide. Filipinos trusted the Anglo-Germans, the US being more German than English by race, but see how they betrayed them. Should have stayed with Spain. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. The Negritos are the true Filipinos. They form the indigenous population of pretty much all of Southeast Asia. Malays are invaders just like Spaniards. Thanks to Spain, Filipinos don't have to bow to a satanic cube 5 times a day. Thanks to Spain, Filipinos weren't conquered by China nor Japan while under Spain, of course. Spain gave you chocolate. The US gave you AIDS. Spain got imperial glory and England was envious and oh so sad. Why him, why not me? I want imperial glory too. We carved ourselves a glorious empire from scratch. Sure you did. If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. Isaac, Trinity-denying heretic Newton. Pons, once le monde, or however they say it, the world. Iberia, let you. The Dutch want the world. Iberia made it possible, although unintentionally, except by the elites doing so through Masonic collusion, as explained in part 2. Portugal wants to go around the world. Venice and Genoa made that possible. España, that's me by the way, wants to conquer the world. Thanks to Venice and Genoa, that was almost entirely the case. Spaniards give credit to Columbus and others. We're not ingrates like our enemies. But there's a plot twist. The Italians long for survival, which came thanks to Aragon and Castilla, Spain. Survival from that thing. It scares me. Suleiman the Magnificent. Even Dracula fears the onion. But real Dracula fears not onion. Turkeys have shish kebab. Vlad have Turk kebab. Later Brits would beat Turks and save them from Russians. Ponce also, of course. More on British high-tech later. But it's interesting that how the Crusaders would win. Part 4. Actually, this is part 4. Part 5 later. Ojalá.